Right, I think we're all set up now. So, hello everybody. Welcome to another IsoEngine Livestream. So, I'm sure some of you have noticed that I've been gone for, I think, about 3 weeks now, which is quite a long time. So that wasn't a planned disappearance. Basically, I got ill around just before quarantine went into effect in the UK, so for those maybe watching after who don't know what I'm on about, I'm in quarantine for coronavirus. And then since then, I've just kind of been stuck indoors. Found it hard to find the motivation to work, to be quite honest, as has Joshua Matthews, the guy I work with. So I've only really just gotten over being ill and kind of a bit down and stuck indoors and everything. And I really wanted to get this back on track. Obviously now is a great time to be streaming, I think, for us. It's a shame that we couldn't do it a lot sooner or carry on the momentum that we were building before, and I'm kind of really disappointed with that, but we have to make the most of what we have now, right? So I'm basically just going to come back, do the work that I had scheduled. I have moved around a couple of things, deprioritized some stuff, like I was going to update the live stream package, but that's now not too important to me anymore. I've had a poke around. There's not really that many free packages that I'm interested in. Even paid ones I'm not that interested in. I think for all intents and purposes, this setup that I've got on the live stream at the moment is sufficient. I mean, this camera's fine. The follower goal does what it's supposed to. The borders and whatever else, I don't really need them. I'm not a gaming channel or anything like that, so I don't need the whole like hype thing. So I'm just going to keep it as is. I've been working on physics ongoing. The implementation that I wanted to use for that was still using the thing called instant static meshes, which is, if you've been following the series, you should be familiar with, which is a simpler version of models basically in the Unreal Engine. Apparently, from what I can tell, I've done extensive research, and while nothing is explicitly stated whether or not it can be used, I'm of the understanding that physics are not an option for those. Just from things that have been insinuated on like articles and stuff that I've read through, but it's hard to find definitive proof. So I will do this, but what I'm going to do instead is look at this more when I do the play mode, because that's where it'll actually matter. And so for the static editor, physics aren't an issue, like at all. There are no physics in the static editor. We don't really need them until we investigate a play mode, and it's being used essentially in that context. So that I'm going to deprioritise. I obviously need to go through and change all the dates on these because of the long break that we took, so these deadlines need to be reorganised and stuff. I also need to put in some extra hours on here for this, so I'm going to done so much research on this topic, so I'm going to put another 4 hours in there. Because I believe that I've genuinely spent that much time, if not more, just doing research on it, which is ridiculous at this point. But that's fine. It is what it is. If I'd have known it would have taken that long, I would have gone with a different approach initially, but I didn't, so I can't do anything about it. Again, as with every challenge I face so far, you just got to deal with it and move on, really. So let's look at changing the date. So the physics, as I said, I'm moving it to a later point in time. I need to check the roadmap actually, just check how far behind we are on stuff now, because obviously everything's been set back by a few weeks. So let's have a look. So we've been working on the prop system. This is what's fine. So this stuff basically is what I want to work on. Portals is something I won't be able to work on straight away. I might put these off actually. Animation control is probably quite important, so I need to look at that at some point. But I don't think Josh is at the point where he can do animations anyway, so we might need to save that. Physics is on there, obviously, changeable skins. So all of this stuff I think I will delegate to a later time. Prefabs is what we were going to work on now anyway, so I think what I'm going to do is just start working on these, basically. Once, however, I have done this one task which I've moved over, which is quite important because it causes crashes in the engine, which obviously isn't great, and that is when using arrays. So I've dealt with this problem before, as I've said. When looking at the array bounds, for example, of the world, so when trying to access I don't know, let's say I'm trying to do some brushes on the edge of the world, some like voxel brushes or something. Well, it's very nature. If I've got a brush that's bigger than that extends beyond the edge of the world, if it tries to write or do any operations outside of the array bounds, then obviously it's going to cause a crash. That's a problem that I've solved before. I can't remember exactly what this was in reference to. Let's see if I've made any notes on it. No. But I'll be able to find that fairly easily, because everything that uses arrays is fairly easy to find. So I will look into that. So yeah, that's the thing that I'll be working on now. That'll kind of just wrap up the features that I've been working on recently. And then I can move on to the prefab work. So the prefab work is quite important for the editor. It's a way of streamlining the design process for anyone using the level editor itself, which is obviously massively important for not just us as level designers, but also you guys when building your own custom content. So that will be one of the most important things that I do on the editor side. And as I've discussed before, there is going to be a lot of UI work going on at the moment. Editor UI here, so I will need to re-get Josh onto this so that he can build a UI for me that goes on top of the work that I'm doing. So once the prefab stuff is done, he should have a very solid kind of fleshed out UI that we'll be using in the editor. We don't want to say that it will be the final editor UI, but it will be a step in the right direction to getting all of the features and functionality in there that we want. And then after that, scenes and menus are something that we'll be working on for a month or so. That will mainly be Josh's domain, but I will obviously help him with that on the coding side. I don't expect it to take a tremendous amount of time, but there may be a lot of work that I need to do on saving and loading to kind of make that a reality. AI controller as well is something that's quite important. That'll involve a lot of the play mode stuff. I believe play mode stuff is already in here. Not necessarily, so maybe props. Well, it's all this action stuff basically. So I'm going to rush through, well not rush through, but I'm going to try and get through as much of the prefab work as I can as possible, so I can get it done, and then I'll go back and tidy up some of the prop work in preparation for doing the AI controller. I believe it's possible. It'll be a struggle. I'll have to do a lot of work, potentially extending my hours to Wednesdays as well when I'm live streaming, because so far I've been kind of taking Wednesdays off to do the podcast among other things, but I think I'm going to focus more on development from now on just to catch up, obviously deliver more content as well. The live stream upload backlog that we had, because when I stopped live streaming, all content kind of dried up and then I couldn't upload to YouTube, so any momentum we gained on that front was lost. So not great. Anyway, so let's get on with it. So let's start editing some of these dates here. So this one, I literally expect to get it done today, so what I'm going to do is just set the date to today's date, which is that one. There we go. Did that even update? I think so. There we go. So let's get going. So I'll put that to one side. Let's open up the editor. So I've already done a compile on this. What I need to do now is just go through my code, which I believe primarily has been in the prop controller and the editor UI stuff, and just look over any uses of arrays and just make sure that I'm doing those properly. This stuff was some experiments that I was doing with trying to get physics to work, so what I'm going to do is get rid of this. Yeah, so let's just get rid of any physics stuff that I was working on before. So today it's kind of just like an introductory video just to get back into the flow of things, which is why I've chosen a fairly easy thing to start off with. I'm not working on any new problems necessarily, which is nice for me. It just means I can have a nice kind of relaxed time, get back into the flow of things. One thing I'm considering doing now actually as well, since I've got pretty much all the time in the world, is moving the live stream to a later time. I know a lot of people start watching a bit later on the live stream. I don't know if it's better to start live streaming later when peak traffic on Twitch is a bit higher, or keep it at this time. So I'll see how that goes in terms of viewership, and then I'll make a decision on that at a later date. So currently I'm just having a look through, seeing if anything stands out. From what I can tell, it will be within... It'll basically be to do with code involving the prop reference array that I've got, which is basically storing information about what props occupy what space in voxel space. So if I can find that, then I can start doing some safety checks on it. It'll probably be in the spawn and new prop section. I think it's this. Before I do this, I just want to make sure that the crash actually does occur. I think it does. Make sure everything's still working, of course. I cannot, for the life of me, actually remember what the controls are, so this will be a learning experience for me as well. I believe it's B. Yeah. So let's put a tree. Okay, so one check that's obvious to me now is I need to have a check here for not allowing you to spawn stuff outside. I need to do a recompile. Get rid of that physics stuff I was working on. But yeah, I need to stop people from spawning stuff outside of the world bounds. I'm not sure if they should be able to place the origin, like whether the whole shape needs to be within the world bounds or not. Wait for this to finish first. I'm not actually listening to the music on the stream, by the way, because I've heard it that many times. So if anything weird comes on, just let me know and I'll change this. It's taking longer than normal. I do with like a coffee or something, but I'm on a 1 coffee a day restriction right now, just to reduce my caffeine intake. Because since being stuck indoors, I've got quite unhealthy. I'm trying to like get back into actually looking after myself. Because both me and my girlfriend are kind of being a bit lazy at the moment. So I've been getting back into exercising again, that kind of thing. Which has really helped with motivation and stuff, actually. It's part of the reason why I've wanted to get back into everything. And also the reason I'm so tired is because I've been trying to sort my sleep out as well, which hasn't been the easiest thing in the world. This is taking so long. I've only changed like 5 lines of code. But I need to have a look at editing this slightly to see how it deals with, because I think this will also be an issue. I think it's not an issue on the positive end of the arrays. When looking at, say, anything less than 0, it causes a crash, so I need to also test that as well and see if a crash occurs. And then obviously I'll put some safety checks in there. And also I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone with that, and if anything goes outside of the bounds of the array, so when trying to place an object, just automatically return false. It's taking it. Guess while we wait, we can do some other stuff. So let's put this instead for the end of next month. Sorry, this month, but. There we go. This is something that's causing me massive headaches, actually, and I'm still putting it off until I have a better solution. I don't really know how to deal with it. So unless it's a massive problem, I think I'm going to put this. I think I'm going to push this right back, like really far back. I might even, I'm quite tempted to remove it from the prepared queue as well, having it back into approved. I know I shouldn't be pushing back any stuff really, but I don't want it to just be stuck there. Because we have this time here where basically nothing's happening. This is where all the polish and stuff is going to go on, so might put it in the global features epic and get it right back. Anyway, this is done. So let's give it a test, see if we can crash it basically. So yeah, so this is the issue, we can only remove stuff and it crashes there. Right, so let's start writing this new code. So all we really need to do here is make sure that this is never checking outside of the array bounds. So what I'm thinking is I have some basically having some what do you call them, quaternions? Yeah, having some quaternion operators or something like that to return whether or not I can use each XYZ position. So these things basically. So it's just a matter of just replacing these new variables that we've created. And this actually obviously makes the code a lot nicer to look at as well. So it's a nice little improvement. Improves readability massively, regardless of what we do with these variables. Just so that this is more true to what I want this function to actually do as well, I'm going to rename this to valid. And then I'm going to move this little overlap mode thing into there too. This is no longer necessary actually, because it's covered within this function. So we want to copy this overlap mode function into here. Also, this wants to be true. There we go, so we're just adding that in as an extra condition for that function. Just to update this function definition here so we can pass it in as a parameter. There we go. So basically, if we're not in overlap mode, which means props cannot overlap with each other, we want to do the check. If we find anything that touches where we want to place something, we say we can't do it. All else fails. Basically, if overlap mode is enabled and we haven't hit this condition, we return true. We also need to have the case for what else? Something else I wanted to check. I guess whether or not it's in the world bounds. I guess if we hit the world boundaries at all with any of these. think we actually want to move this if statement inside, because what I want to do is I also want to check against the world bounds for the current prop, no matter what mode is active, so that it's never placed outside of the world boundaries. So I'm going to return false for that. For some reason my mouse has been lagging recently, which has been annoying. It keeps on like catching. Need to probably do a system reset at some points. My PC's been having loads of weird crashes and stuff as well. So anyway. Well, that needs to be an order, doesn't it? Right, so that should be the extent of the world boundaries checks. Let me just check whether or not this is the appropriate place to put them. Yeah, just double checking everything. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to move this inside of here. So first of all, we're just checking the dimensions are where they should be. And if we're not allowing it to overlap, do the collision checks, and then if all passes, basically we return true. It'll work, hopefully. Okay, so let's give this a run. Hopefully nothing is inherently broken. Yeah, so that can't be placed outside, that's great. Right there as well. This is something I need to investigate. For some reason the world boundaries don't seem to be what they should be. At least not on some of the checks anyway. Or maybe this just isn't quite right. Need to find uses of world width. What I'm doing at the moment, just in case that this wasn't clear at all, I just want to make sure that when basically dealing with all of my objects, I'm actually checking up to the same point, which should be the world boundaries, but for some reason some of them are like the world boundaries +1. Trying to work out what one is actually correct, whether or not I want it to be more than or equal to, more than and equal to, or just more than. I guess it's more than and equals to. Because in that case, we're also stopping, because the array is of size world width, right? Which starts at 0, so yeah. So that change I made previously needs to be reverted. So let me find why it's placing stuff further than what it should. Alright, let's try that. Hopefully I've not just inadvertently broken something. Weird. Oh, I know what it is actually. So this needs to actually happen inside of here, because we're not just checking if the entire box itself that it could occupy is there. We're checking if any active spaces are outside of the world bounds. So if the collision space is active, so i.e. there's a space occupying that area, turn false if anything collides with outside the world bounds. And if we are not in overlap mode, test against any collisions within the existing world space, and then if all of this goes through, it returns true. Yep, so that's working. Cool. Let's try with the three-dimensional object. Well, they're all three-dimensional objects. I mean, an object that occupies more than just a single stack. I don't know if I've got any actually. Need to make some. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I guess I can test it once we get some stuff that actually does occupy that kind of thing. I need to test overlap mode, and I can't remember what button it is. I think M. I think that's right. Yeah. So M still works. Nothing can be placed outside. Nothing can be placed outside there anymore. Cool. Yeah, that's all working now. So fix that one source of error. That's great. I don't think there's any other sources of error actually, because that was the main thing that was causing crashes before. Obviously, we'll do continual testing on this. If any more crashes come up at all, then obviously we'll fix those. This might be where I need to put some additional stuff in. Similar to before, just updating the code here. Right, why is it not like this? Oh, right. Added too much detail on there. Yeah. So this is a change that I actually probably should have done a long time ago. It makes it a lot easier to read what the hell is going on here. It's not as efficient, sure, but I think the compiler will compile out a lot of this stuff and inline it, so who knows, it might actually be more efficient. I can't really test it, because if I tested every little thing I did like this, it would take me forever. I'm slow at programming as it is sometimes. I basically want this if statement that I made earlier, but I'm not going to return false. This is actually more efficient, so I'm no longer calling them functions multiple times, which is nice. Nice little benefit of what I've been doing. So basically, if none of this is outside of the array bounds, and we detect something in that space. Then go through the stack, find the thing that we're trying to locate, so the current object we're trying to look at, erase it at this position. Be in line there. Yeah, a lot easier to read than before. Get rid of that. Just going to put the brackets in here for clarity of scope for this for loop. Don't technically need it, but it just makes it a bit easier to work out what's going on here. Compile that. So that should fix any source of errors for the deletion as well, so we're not again trying to access outside of array. Yes, I think I've fixed any source of error actually that we had previously. So I'm going to bring up this again. Go to the board. So I've just spent what? Just over an hour on that. Say an hour 30. Move this into the built section. There we go, we're done. So I'm not going to spend too much longer today on the stream because again it's just kind of an introductory session for me to get back into the groove of things. What I will do is basically this evening catch up on any admin work I have to do on the video side, as well as while you guys are on stream with me, just update some of these times. If I see something that stands out that I want to do now, obviously I'll do that, but I'm not going to rush into too much today, just so that I can not overwhelm myself straight away getting back into work again. I mean, even doing that bit of code was quite slow by my usual standards, so like not feeling kind of well and everything's really taken it out of me. So I had quite a bad throat infection. So it wasn't coronavirus, thankfully, but still quite severe. Like really kicked the energy out of me for a good week, and then took a while to recover. I don't even know where it came from, really. It just kind of happened. Yeah, just kind of about. Okay, let's put this. So I'm setting the dates for this for Josh. So the actual ticket booking, I want them done by the end of the week. Any other additional admin stuff I want done by next week, but basically. We'll check that on the calendar. Yeah. Just to give you guys an idea of how we're reprioritising a little bit. So normally, you know, as with these slow days, I've spent a lot of time in Jira, but hopefully things will pick back up again, and I can move more into the code rather than the admin, because the admin stuff I just need to kind of do just to get back on top of things, prioritise tasks and stuff like that, become more familiar again with what state the project's in. It's kind of why this is so helpful, because I can kind of remember everything that I was doing before and was thinking about while working full time. So I don't know if I should be kind of cruel and set an aggressive deadline for this, because this involves a lot of upfront planning work for the rest of the UI stuff. So I think I will put this next week. But then after that, give him a week to do the other two. We're quite relaxed with each other, to be honest, about when and where we do things, because we all have our own lives, you know. There's no rush to get things done straight away. Surprised I don't have more tasks on here, but I suppose it's because Josh hasn't worked through his backlog. So I'll make him aware of some of the stuff on here currently, and add more as we go. Okay, so as that's just my starting session, now we're coming up to just an hour and a half here now on this video, I think, roughly. Oh no, it's just over an hour, it's not even an hour and a half. But yeah, relatively quick. Nothing too intense. What I'll also do is just edit the time on here that I spent, so it wasn't an hour 30 like I thought it was. Can I do minusing? I don't think so. Oh well, doesn't matter. I'm sure it makes up for other time that I've lost elsewhere. But yeah, I'm going to do the rest of the admin work off cam, because kind of getting back into streaming again, it's not my natural way of working, I'll be honest. I did get quite into the flow of it before, so obviously as this goes on, the longer the live streams will be, the more work I'll get done on camera. I will continue working off camera and keep you guys up to date to, I believe, tomorrow if all goes well, which it should do. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I will see you tomorrow at 12. I won't make any decisions just yet until the end of this week about when I'll be updating, if at all, the live streaming times. So just, yeah, come here 12 o'clock tomorrow if you're interested. I'll probably be streaming until about 2-3 tomorrow. So, okay. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.